A long time ago, there was a man named Abraham who was faithful and devoted to God. God promised to make Abraham's family grow into a great nation, give them a special land to call their own, and bless them in incredible ways. God also said that Abraham's family would bring blessings to the entire world. However, as time flew by, he and his wife Sarah still had no children. Abraham, now 100 years old, his white beard shone in the golden light as he stood outside his tent. Draped in a simple sand-colored robe, he lifted his hands in prayer, murmuring, "Lord, your servant waits for your promise." His faith never wavered, even as the years stretched on. Inside the tent, Sarah, graceful even at 90, swept the earthen floor. Her gray hair was neatly tied beneath a linen headscarf, and her dark, worn eyes reflected both strength and longing. She hummed softly, a melody of hope she clung to despite her years of barrenness. One day in the distance, three figures approached, their forms shimmering in the heat waves. His heart stirred. These were no ordinary travelers. Could it be? He whispered to himself. Abraham rushed to meet them, his old frame moving with surprising vigor. Bowing low, he said, "Please stop here. Rest beneath the tree while I fetch water and prepare a meal." His voice carried both humility and anticipation. Inside the tent, Sarah kneaded dough with practiced hands, her robe dusted with flour. Her movements were deliberate but graceful, as if every task were an offering. "Three visitors," Abraham says, she muttered. "Could this mean something?" Abraham stood by as the visitors ate, his face glowing with the joy of hospitality. The three men sat on woven mats under the shade, their presence serene yet commanding. One of them looked at Abraham and smiled knowingly. "Where is your wife, Sarah?" one of the visitors asked, his voice resonant. Startled, Abraham replied, "In the tent." The visitor's next words silenced the air. "Next year I will return, and Sarah will have a son." Hidden inside the tent, Sarah overheard and laughed quietly, pressing her hands to her mouth. "At my age, and with my Lord Abraham so old," she thought. But the visitor's voice carried inside. Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord? That night, as the stars glittered above, Abraham and Sarah sat outside their tent. "Could it truly be?" Sarah whispered. Abraham clasped her hand, his eyes filled with unshakable faith. "He has never failed us before." As the days passed, Sarah began to notice a change. Her body, frail and tired, now held a new energy. Could this be? She wondered, placing a hand on her stomach. Tears filled her eyes as hope took root. Sarah's face glowed as her belly grew, a visible sign of the miracle. Women in the camp whispered in awe, "The Lord has remembered Sarah." Time passed and Sarah gave birth to a healthy boy. Sarah and Abraham was so very happy. As the sun rose, Sarah looked at her son and smiled. "We will call him Isaac," she said, meaning laughter, "for God has turned my disbelief into joy." Watching Isaac sleep, Sarah whispered, "For so many years I doubted, but God has shown me that nothing is impossible for him." Her heart swelled with gratitude. As Isaac grew, his laughter echoed through the camp, a reminder of God's faithfulness. Abraham and Sarah, now in their twilight years, smiled often, knowing their waiting was not in vain. When you pray, trust that God hears you. While waiting, remain faithful, continue to serve, and hold on to his promises. God answers prayers in ways far beyond what we can imagine, turning what seems impossible into reality.